So it's been, I reckon, 6 or 7 weeks since I put the Cushcore in the remedy. I wrote in the remedy for the remainder of the life of the remedy, and then I got the patrol straight away, put a Cushcore in the back. This one's the one out of the remedy. Doesn't seem to be much damage really at all to it. There's a few hits. There's no real tears on it yet. Relatively easy to put in, not so easy to get out. So when you're getting it out, you need to have, I don't know whether I'm doing it right or whatever, but it seems like I'm kind of following the way most people do it. But just pushing, so you got your tyre and you're pushing the bead back into the centre of the well of the rim. And because it's been glued for a while, like it's been set with the sealant for a while, it's quite tight and it's quite takes a fair bit of force to push it in there. So with the tyre levers that I've got, they're not very, they're quite sharp both. Well, not sharp, but they're not, you'd want something rounded on one end so you can really push without digging into your soft little girly hands like I've got. So little bit of a hassle to get off. You wouldn't get them off in a hurry, that's for sure. You wouldn't get your tyre off in a hurry. But outside of that, protection is phenomenal. So rim protection, if you're spending $500 to build a back wheel or whatever, you know, it's a $150 rim. You got carbon rims, or you just want to protect your rims and keep them from getting dented up and then going through the hassle of not having a bike for a few days while you're getting a wheel built up, or not having a bike for a week when you're ordering one in, or whatever the case may be. So definitely, if you've got the money and you don't mind a little bit of extra hassle of messing around when you do have to change your tyres, a worthy investment for sure. I would recommend running the Stan's race sealant or something thick, some sort of a thick sealant with a lot of particles in it, because if you do get a flat, you want that thing to seal up straight away. Or carrying a tool with a plug in it. So this is the 1-up tool, and it comes with, I'm actually just about to buy the extension, so it's a little plug inserter with a heap of the plugs, or the side of bacon, or bacon strips, whatever they want to call them. So this 1-up tool's super handy. I'll do a review on that as well soon. But definitely Cushcore and carry plugs, no brainer. Compare this to my 10-buck chuck. This one's 250 grams, this one's about 150 grams. With this one, what I'll do next time if I use a 10-buck chuck, so just on a side point, I don't think I'll run without rim protection in the tyre from now on. So whether it be the Cushcore or this, for the extra weight that it adds, you know, it's not noticeable, even though that's 250 grams, which, you know, should be noticeable. It's not really noticeable, and with this one, it's less noticeable again. I would glue this both ends. So I did it so that when you put it around the rim, so let's say this is the rim, I'm putting it around the rim, I'd have that little bit of opening for where the valve core is, so it doesn't block the air in and out. But it moves around anyway in the tyre, and it'll end up blocking that valve core anyway. So Cushcore, the valve core comes, so that's your valve core, the air comes out east and west. Whereas in the standard valves, your air only comes through north. So if your valve's at the top of the tyre, top of the wheel, this actually sits on the valve and blocks your air in and out. So it's hard to get air in and out. So all you got to do is spin the wheel 180 degrees, make sure your core is at the bottom, and this will sit out of the way so you can pump it up, let air out, no worries. All good. So I definitely glue that together properly like I've done with this end, which was pretty much just a thinner piece of K-Flex and a heap of Loctite super glue. It's held up really, really well. It is hollow inside, which is kind of I believe you could get sealant trapped, especially once you start getting these pinch flats or these snake bites. You start opening up cavities for the sealant to go in here, so you're more likely to have issues with sealant getting to the outer of the tyre. It stays in the outer of the tyre for the most part, but when I pulled this out last time, there was a little bit of sealing inside of it. There was still plenty of sealing outside of it, but that's something to think about as well. So I'd glue that together. Maybe put a slit on the top of your valve, which I've done with my standard valve. The Cushcore valves are much better. You can buy them, I think they're 40 bucks or something. So if you don't have the money to pay 200 bucks for a set of Cushcores, go to Bunnings, spend 10, 15 bucks on some K-Flex, you know, maybe 15 bucks. And I've done a video on how to create this, what materials it is and whatnot. But this was excellent, much easier to change tyres. You don't really feel it. The only thing I did feel is the last time I used it, when it bunched up a little bit, it actually bunched up in the tyre a bit on one end. It created a little bit of a woo, woo, woo in the roll, and you could see it. It had a heavy spot, so it wasn't completely symmetrical where the weight was being distributed. So definitely glue it together so it's much more even. You won't have a problem with these. Back to the Cushcore. Vibration damping. A lot of people spoke about how much better the vibration damping is with a Cushcore. I've noticed better vibration damping taking pressure out of my tyres, regardless of whether there's Cushcore in there or not. So if you want better vibration damping, it's run less pressure. What the Cushcore does in terms of vibration damping is allows you to run less pressure to chase that vibration damping. So I don't think the damping, it allows you to run less pressure safely. So I don't think the Cushcore itself is responsible for all the vibration damping. I think it's a combination between the lower air pressure and maybe having this against the rim, because it's always tight against the rim, so maybe it's taking out of that. It's like if you put your hand on the guitar strings and strum them versus when you don't have your hand on the guitar strings. You get a dead sound versus a ding. I'm not a guitarist, but that's kind of, I don't know, good analogy, I guess. So vibration damping, yeah. Rim protection, most certainly. Squirming, a little bit less squirming. So the first few weeks of riding this were pretty uneventful. I didn't have anything really to say about it. It wasn't like a game changer or anything like that. All it was doing was protecting my investments, the rear wheel. Tried it front and back. Didn't really like it in the front. It was a little bit too much weight for. I don't really ding the front end off of too much stuff, so I don't feel like it'd be warranted to run it in the front for the weight penalty. In the back, most certainly, 100%. I did a squirm test on the road where went my normal pressures, then dropped it down a bit, so 27 in the rear, then 26 in the rear, then 25 in the rear, 24 in the rear, and I started squirming at 24, 25, which is kind of normal. My rear tyre, if I'm pumping and trying to bounce out of stuff, it'll start squirming at that 24, 25. Front, same story, it'll squirm at about 23, 24 without a Cushcore. I always run 25 in the front, 24 if it's a real rocky track, just to get that better damping. But for squirm on the road, which is, it's kind of a more controlled situation. I can hit things at the same angle and same speed and whatever. I really feel like this only comes into play with the squirming when you get to really low pressures. It's really highly noticeable at the lower pressures. So I flatted at Death Track a couple of weeks ago, and from the top of the track, pretty much one of the first corners in, I flatted. Hadn't even gotten to the steep stuff yet, the rocky stuff, and I thought, bugger, I'll give it a shot. We couldn't patch it up with we had these Lezyne plugs, tubeless plugs, and they were way too fat to try and push into the hole, and we were just doing more damage to the tyre. So I figured, nah, bugger, I'll just ride it as it is and let it go down. Got a Cushcore in there, so I rode it. It ended up eventually sealed up at about 9 or 10 psi. I rode the whole track without being scared, without feeling like I was damaging anything, or without feeling like I've had no control at the back either, which is what would usually happen without the Cushcore. So I got to the bottom, checked the pressure, 9 psi. I've done a video about it, but it felt so good to ride on with that almost zero pressure. I just felt happy that I was safe and I could get down from the top of the trail all the way to the bottom on a real rocky track and not feel like the back end's fishtailing. It definitely held that tyre in place well. So definitely reduces squirm when you've got a flat or when you're close to flat. But for that stable feeling that you get out of your tyres, which is why I run the pressures that I do, because my tyres feel stable, consistent, and nothing's going to move. Whereas when you're running the lower pressures and you're slamming corners, the bike, you know, you come in and the bike will do a little bit of that wobble, and it completely puts me off. So I can run 1 or 2 psi less with the Cushcores, but I wouldn't run any less than that. So 26 in the rear, 24 to 25 in the front. That's without a Cushcore in the front and with a Cushcore in the rear. Excellent investment. Crazy not to if you've got the money and you've got decent wheels. So if you don't care about the hassle of changing tyres, make it happen for sure. So Cushcore, got the job done.